Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Photoshop Quick Tips Podcast. My name is Justin Seeley, and I'm going to be your host. And in this week's episode, we're going to be taking a look at a very cool and artistic technique that you can apply to your landscape photography just to give them that extra something that they might be missing. If you have a photograph that you're kind of on the fence about keeping or throwing away, try this technique, and I guarantee it'll change the way you think about your photographs. So, we want to make sure that everything we do to this photo is non-destructive. So in order to do that, we need to be working with adjustment layers, and we also need to be working with smart objects. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to convert this background layer to a smart object. I'm going to do that by using right-click on the PC, control-click on the Mac, and choosing Convert to Smart Object. Now once I do that, you're going to notice a little icon right there. That just means it's a smart object, and you're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run a blur on this smart object. We're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Now for this low resolution file that I'm working with here on the podcast, 5 pixels is going to be enough to blur this thing out the amount that I need it to go. If you are working with a larger file, a higher resolution file, I recommend you push this up to about 10, maybe even 15 pixels just to get that extra little bit of blurriness. Now once you've seen the technique and you kind of learn how it works, you can adjust this however you want to kind of get the feel that you're going for. But for now, I'm just going to stick with 5 pixels here. Click OK. And as you can see, as soon as I apply that, it comes down here as a smart filter, and now it also has this filter mask, which is where we're going to go next. We're going to click on that filter mask, make sure it's selected. You'll notice it has a little bounding box around it, which denotes that it's selected. So now you're ready to go on the next step. I'm going to switch to the rectangular marquee tool, and we're going to draw a selection just inside all of the edges here, just like that. And then we're going to come up here to the options bar, and we're going to choose Refine Edge. Inside the Refine Edge dialog box, I'm going to leave all these options the same except for the feathering. I'm going to feather this selection 75 pixels for a low resolution image. If you're working with higher resolution files, you might want to push this up to 100, maybe even 110. I'm going to go ahead and click OK now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our foreground color is set to black. You can hit the letter D on your keyboard, and that's going to default that for you back to the black color. And then use Option Delete or Alt Backspace to fill that selected area with black, and then Command or Control D to deselect. So now you're going to notice that you have this nice soft focus effect all the way around the outside of this image. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take that soft focus effect and we're going to actually turn it in to a soft focus vignette. And in order to do that, we're going to come down here into the smart filter area of this layer again. We're going to double click on the blending options. That's a little slider looking icon right next to the filter name. We're going to double click on that. It'll bring up the blending options for whatever filter you've run, Gaussian blur in this case. We're going to leave the opacity at 100, but we're going to change the blend mode to multiply. And as soon as I do that, you're going to see we get that soft focus effect all the way around the outside, but we're darkening the edges as well. Now when I click OK, you're going to notice this is a pretty nice little effect in and of itself. Soft focus around the edge, fading into the middle, nice darkened edges. Pretty cool effect in and of itself, but we're not done yet. One last step here, we're going to go ahead and add an adjustment layer. And I'm sorry that this is off your screen, but it's just out of my recording area. At the bottom of the adjustment layer panel that flies out here, there's an adjustment layer called Invert. Go ahead and choose Invert. And when you do, you're going to get this interesting color negative effect on your photograph here. And it looks really bad, to be quite honest. It doesn't look good at all. But what you're going to do now is change the blend mode of this adjustment layer as well. So I'm going to click on the blend modes here, and I'm going to change the blend mode of this layer to color. And once I do that, there you see we've got a nice inverted color type image here where the tones that were in the bottom of the image are now in the top of the image. And it just kind of gives you a really interesting and artistic feel, almost like a split tone for the image here, but it still maintains all of the whites and the clouds and different things like that. So this can be a really dramatic effect that it can really help you finish off a photograph that was maybe lacking something when you first took it, but now it looks unbelievably sharp and amazing. So let me show you here. Here's a quick before and after. Here's without all the effects we just created before. and there's after. So you see what a dramatic improvement this is and how quickly and easily we achieve this. And the best part about it is it's all non-destructive. So as you can see, anytime I need to get back to that original file, just turn off the smart filter, turn off the invert layer, and we're right back where we started. So that's it for this episode of the Photoshop Quick Tips Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, as always, you can post them on the blog site at www.photoshopquicktips.com. If you want to send me a message personally, if you have a tutorial request for the podcast itself, go on over to justinseeley.com. There's a contact page there where you can send me your comments, your suggestions, and those do go directly to me, and I do try to answer each and every one of those. So thanks everybody for watching this episode of the Photoshop Quick Tips Podcast. My name is Justin Seeley, and I'll see you next week.